The stars looked the same as they always had from the International Space Station. Captain Tom Reed floated by the observation window, sipping his morning coffee from a sealed container. The Earth turned slowly below, blue and perfect. He had seen this view 1,000 times, but it never got old. "Captain, you might want to take a look at this," called Sam, the station's science officer. Tom pushed himself across the module toward the monitoring station. "What is it?" "Strange readings near Jupiter. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before." Tom frowned at the screen. The blips of light didn't match any known spacecraft or natural phenomena. "How long has this been happening?" "Started about 3 hours ago. At first I thought it was a glitch in our systems." "And now?" Sam looked up, his face pale. "Now I think we're not alone." Within 24 hours, the strange readings moved from Jupiter to Mars. Earth's government scrambled to make sense of what was happening. News channels ran nonstop coverage, with experts arguing whether this was first contact or a natural event science couldn't yet explain. Lisa Clark, head of NASA's exobiology division, was pulled from her bed at 3 a.m. and flown to the White House. She had spent her career searching for signs of microbial life on Mars. Never had she imagined she would be sitting in the Situation Room, explaining to the president why she believed Earth was about to meet beings from another world. "They're not trying to hide," she said, pointing to the latest satellite data. "Whatever these craft are, they're moving with purpose, directly toward Earth." "Are they hostile?" the president asked. Lisa shook her head. "We have no way of knowing, but their technology is clearly far beyond ours. The energy output from these objects would power our entire planet for years." The first ships appeared in Earth's orbit at dawn 2 days later. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything humans had ever built, shimmering with lights and materials that seemed to bend reality. The world held its breath. And then more ships arrived. Different in design, these new vessels moved with aggressive purpose, firing weapons at the first set of ships. The night sky lit up with energies no human had ever witnessed. In his apartment in New York, Jack Miller watched through his window as streaks of light crisscrossed the sky. A former Marine, he knew what combat looked like, even if the scale was beyond anything he could comprehend. This wasn't first contact. This was a battle. And Earth was caught in the middle. The alien transmissions came simultaneously to every communication device on the planet. The translation software worked quickly. Too quickly, making some scientists suspect the message had been specifically formatted for human understanding. "We are the Axis fleet. We seek temporary refuge in your system while we repair our vessels. We mean no harm." The second message followed minutes later. "We are the Coalition. The Axis are criminals and fugitives. Do not assist them. This conflict does not concern your world, but it did concern Earth." Within hours, the battle in orbit intensified. A coalition weapon missed its Axis target and struck Madrid instead. 8 million people gone in an instant. The world's military forces launched everything they had, but it was like throwing stones at tanks. Nuclear weapons detonated harmlessly against the alien shields. In orbit, Captain Tom Reed watched helplessly as bright flashes lit up the surface of his home planet. The ISS communication system buzzed with a message, not from Earth, but from one of the Axis ships. "We regret involving your world in our conflict. As recompense, we offer rescue for as many as we can transport." On the ground, Dr. Lisa Clark worked frantically with an international team to understand the alien technology from the few damaged pieces that had fallen to Earth. In 72 hours without sleep, they made more technological progress than humanity had in the previous century. "We can adapt their drive systems to our largest vessels," she explained to the Emergency World Council. "Not enough to fight back, but maybe enough to get some of us off-world before—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. The Coalition and Axis battle had moved into the atmosphere. Cities burned. The oceans boiled in some regions. Earth was dying. Jack Miller found himself leading an evacuation team at the Kennedy Space Center, where engineers worked around the clock to retrofit Earth's spacecraft with the reverse-engineered alien tech. Crowds pressed against the perimeter fences, desperate, frightened people who knew the world was ending. "We can't save everyone," his commander said grimly. "Priority is for scientists, engineers, doctors, people who can help rebuild." Jack looked at the families beyond the fence. "That's not right. We need to take children, ordinary people too. What's the point of saving humanity if we lose what makes us human?" The argument spread through the command chain, but there wasn't time for debate. The coalition had begun systematic attacks on Earth itself, claiming the Axis had hidden resources on the surface. When the first retrofitted ships lifted off, they carried a mix of Earth's best minds and random citizens who had simply been in the right place at the right time. Jack Miller made sure of that, standing at the boarding ramp and pulling people from the crowd until security dragged him aboard the final vessel. In orbit, Captain Reed received the evacuation ships at a rendezvous point behind the moon where the battle hadn't yet reached. The scene was chaos. Spacecraft never designed for deep space were packed with terrified civilians, some already failing as their hastily installed alien technology malfunctioned. "We have 9 million people spread across 300 vessels," Reed reported over the emergency channel. "Where do we go?" The answer came from Dr. Clark, now aboard the converted oil rig vessel renamed Endurance. "We've decoded some of their star charts. There are habitable worlds within reach if these engines hold out." The evacuation fleet prepared to depart as Earth, once blue and perfect, burned below them. The Coalition and Axis continued their battle, neither side seeming to notice or care about the primitive species fleeing the destruction. Captain Reed took one last look at his home planet. Continents were now unrecognizable, covered in fire or shrouded in ash clouds. He thought of the billions who couldn't escape, of the history and art and music that was being lost forever. "They'll pay for this," he whispered. "Both sides." Dr. Clark's voice came over the comm. "All ships ready, Captain. It's time to go." As the fleet engaged their alien-human hybrid drives, accelerating away from the solar system, the people of Earth took their first steps into a galaxy that had dismissed them as primitive and irrelevant. They didn't know the names of the worlds that awaited them, or the challenges they would face. They didn't know if they would find allies or only more enemies. They only knew one thing for certain: humanity was no longer confined to Earth. And the species that had destroyed their home would soon learn what humans could do when pushed to the edge of extinction. Behind them, in the final transmission anyone would ever receive from Earth, a lone voice spoke from some unknown bunker deep. "Beneath the surface, remember us, remember Earth, and make them remember too." The stars welcomed the last of humanity into their cold embrace. 5 years passed like a dream, or a nightmare. The human fleet, once united in their escape from Earth, had scattered across several star systems. Communication was difficult, resources were scarce, and hope was in short supply. Jack Miller walked through the crowded hallways of the colony ship Endurance, nodding to people as he passed. As head of security, he knew every face aboard. 9,000 souls crammed into a vessel never designed to house so many for so long. "Another fight in the mess hall," reported his deputy, a young woman named Anna, who had been a police officer, back on Earth. "People are getting restless," Jack sighed. What was it this time? Food. Again. Someone accused the kitchen staff of giving bigger portions to the engineers. This was becoming too common. The Endurance had been designed as an oil rig support vessel before the hasty evacuation. Now it served as home to thousands, drifting between star systems, stopping only to mine asteroids or gas giants for the raw materials needed to keep the engines running. Jack headed to the bridge where Captain Reed was studying star charts. The captain had aged 20 years and 5. His hair had gone completely gray and deep lines marked his face. "How are we doing, Tom?" Jack asked. "The old military ranks long abandoned. We've made contact with 3 more ships from the fleet." Reed answered, his voice tired but hopeful. "The Darwin, the New Horizon, and the Singapore, all in one piece, all with survivors." "How many does that make now?" 87 ships accounted for about 2 million people. Reed didn't need to do the math out loud. Of the 300 ships that had fled Earth, more than 2/3 were still missing, and of the roughly 9 million evacuees, less than a quarter were confirmed alive. The Terran remnant grows, Jack said, trying to sound positive. That was what they called themselves now, the Terran remnant, a reminder of what they had lost and what they carried forward. There's something else, Reed said, lowering his voice. We picked up transmissions from a trading outpost in the next system. Other species, Jack. A whole galaxy of them out there trading and fighting and living while we've been running and hiding. Jack felt a chill. The ones who destroyed Earth? Maybe. We don't know enough yet. But Dr. Clark wants to send a team to make contact. We need allies, Jack. We can't survive alone forever. In the depths of the Endurance, Dr. Lisa Clark worked with a team of scientists and engineers in what had once been the ship's cargo hold. Now it was their research center, filled with a mix of salvaged Earth technology and the alien devices they had managed to take during the evacuation. Try it again, she told her assistant, a young physicist named Mike. Mike placed his hand on the alien device, a simple control panel they had removed from debris in Earth orbit. The panel lit up, its strange symbols glowing blue under his touch. It's working, he said. Lisa frowned. That's the 5th time today it's worked for you, but not for me or Dan. Maybe it likes me better, Mike joked. But Lisa wasn't laughing. She had noticed a pattern over the past year. Certain people could operate the alien technology more easily than others, and it wasn't related to intelligence or technical skill. It was something else. Something about human neural patterns that seemed to interface with the alien tech in unexpected ways. I want to try something, she said. Keep your hand on the panel, but this time, don't try to make it work. Just think about, I don't know, your old home on Earth. Mike looked confused, but did as she asked. The panel's glow intensified, and suddenly a holographic display appeared above it, showing not the alien symbols they expected, but a scene of mountains and forests. Exactly what Mike had been picturing in his mind. That's impossible, Dan whispered. That's Colorado. I recognize those peaks. Lisa's heart raced. It's responding to human thought patterns. Not just accepting them as input, it's adapting to them. The implications were enormous. The aliens' technology wasn't just more advanced, it was fundamentally different. And humans, with their primitive brains, were interacting with it in ways its creators might never have imagined. 2 days later, Jack Miller led a small team to the alien trading outpost in a modified shuttle. Captain Reed had argued against it, but Dr. Clark had been persuasive. They needed to know more about the galaxy they now inhabited. The trading post orbited a small moon, a hodgepodge of structures connected by docking tubes. Ships of various designs came and went, none of them recognizable to human eyes. Remember, Jack told his team, we're just traders looking for supplies. Keep your helmets on, don't mention Earth or the fleet. They docked without incident, using an adapter Dr. Clark's team had created based on the alien technology they'd studied. When the airlock opened, Jack felt a wave of dizziness. The gravity was slightly off, and the air, while breathable according to their instruments, smelled wrong. The creatures they met came in all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost like giant insects, others like reptiles walking on 2 legs. A few could have passed for human from a distance, until you noticed the blue skin or the extra fingers. Using translation devices cobbled together from the alien tech, Jack's team managed basic communication. They traded some of their refined metals for fuel and information. The aliens saw them as curiosities, a previously unknown species with crude technology. No one seemed to connect them to Earth or recognize them as human. They think we're primitives, Anna whispered to Jack as they left a trading booth. Did you see how that thing laughed when I asked about our drive system? Jack nodded, but his attention was elsewhere. Across the busy market area, 2 tall, slender aliens in what looked like military uniforms were watching them. Their stance reminded Jack of coalition troops from the brief glimpses he'd had during Earth's final days. Time to go, he said quietly. Don't look back, don't run, just head for the dock. They made it back to their shuttle without incident, But as they pulled away from the trading post, a larger ship detached from another dock and followed them. "Coalition patrol," the pilot said, her voice tight with fear. "They don't know who we are," Jack reminded her. "They've never seen humans up close." But he was wrong. As their shuttle accelerated away, the alien ship sent a transmission. "Unidentified vessel. You carry survivors of planet designation Terra 3. Return to inspection. Point or be destroyed." They knew. Somehow they knew humans had survived. "Get us back to the Endurance," Jack ordered. "Maximum speed, and send a message to all Terran ships in range. We've been discovered." As their shuttle raced through space, Jack thought about what they had learned. The galaxy was full of species, some at war, some at peace. Earth had been nothing but collateral damage in a conflict too vast for humans to comprehend. But the aliens had made a mistake. They should have made sure no humans survived. Because now, scattered among the stars, the remnants of humanity were learning, adapting, and discovering that their primitive minds might be their greatest weapon. And they hadn't forgotten the last message from Earth. Remember us, remember Earth, and make them remember too. 2 years had passed since the encounter at the trading post. The scattered ships of humanity had come together, abandoning their wandering for a permanent home. They called it New Terra, an abandoned mining moon, orbiting a gas giant in a system far from the main space lanes. The moon's surface was barren and cold, but beneath it lay vast caverns left behind by the aliens who had mined it centuries ago. Now these caverns housed the last of humanity. Nearly 3 million people living in a strange mix of human ingenuity and alien technology. Colonel Kate Wilson stood on the observation platform overlooking the defense grid. Once a pilot in Earth's Air Force, she now commanded the Terran Defense Force. The irony wasn't lost on her. Earth had had no real defenses against the aliens. Now, the survivors were determined not to make the same mistake twice. "Status report," she said to the young officer beside her. "All systems green, Colonel. The new weapons are online and the early warning network extends to the edge of the system." Kate nodded, studying the weapons platforms that surrounded New Terra. They were ugly things, a mix of human design and salvaged alien technology. The alien engineers they had captured would have been horrified at the modifications humans had made to their elegant systems. But that was the point. Humans didn't think like the aliens, and increasingly, that was proving to be their greatest strength. In the research center deep below the moon's surface, Dr. Lisa Clark watched as her team tested their latest breakthrough. They called it the Murphy Protocol, named after the old Earth saying, "Anything that can go wrong will go wrong." "Start the simulation," she ordered. On the large screen, a virtual battle played out. Standard coalition attack patterns against the modified defense systems of New Terra. The coalition ships moved with elegant precision, their tactics refined over thousands of years of warfare. But the Murphy Protocol didn't react as expected. Where the coalition expected standard defensive patterns, the human systems did the unexpected, taking risks, leaving deliberate gaps in their defense to create traps, using maneuvers that seemed irrational until the moment they worked. "Run it again," Lisa said. "This time, let the system make its own choices. No human input." The simulation reset. This time, the Murphy Protocol performed even better, developing tactics no human would have thought of, tactics that no alien would expect. "It's learning," whispered her assistant Mike. "But not like their AI learns, it's chaotic, unpredictable." Lisa smiled. "Exactly, like humans. We're not better than them. We're different. And they don't know how to fight different." The alarm sounded while Kate was inspecting the refugee housing in the eastern cavern. Red lights flashed, and the automated voice echoed through the tunnels. "Alert. Unidentified vessels entering system. All defense personnel to stations." She rushed to the command center, arriving just as the sensor data came in. "5 ships," reported the sensor officer. "Coalition design. Moving fast." Captain Tom Reed, now serving as civilian governor of New Terra, entered the command center. "How did they find us?" Doesn't matter, Kate said. They're here. Activate the Murphy protocol. The tech officers looked nervous. Colonel, it's not fully tested. Dr. Clark said, Now, Lieutenant, that's an order. On the main screen, they watched the coalition ships approach, sleek, powerful vessels that could reduce New Terra to dust if they got close enough. They're hailing us, said the communications officer. Tom stepped forward. Put them through. The screen changed to show a humanoid alien with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. It spoke in a flat tone, its words translated by the computer. Survivors of Terra 3, your presence has been noted. Your technology is recognized as prohibited salvage. Surrender and prepare for processing. Tom looked at Kate, who shook her head slightly. They had discussed this possibility for 2 years. There would be no surrender. This is Governor Tom Reed of New Terra. We claim this moon by right of settlement. We have no quarrel with the coalition. The alien's expression didn't change. Your claim is irrelevant. Your species is unregistered. Prepare for processing or be eliminated. The transmission cut off. They're moving into attack formation, reported the sensor officer. Weapons charging. Kate took the command position. Activate Murphy protocol. Full autonomy. Around New Terra, the ugly hybrid defense platforms came to life. But instead of forming a standard defensive screen, they began to move in seemingly random patterns. The coalition ships fired their first volley, streams of energy that should have overwhelmed the primitive defenses. But the defense platforms weren't where they should have been. Some had powered down, appearing dead. Others had moved in close to the moon's surface, using its mass as a shield. They're confused, Kate said, watching the tactical display. Their targeting systems rely on prediction algorithms, but the Murphy protocol doesn't follow any pattern they recognize. The coalition ships adjusted their formation, trying to compensate for the unusual defense tactics. That was when the apparently dead platform suddenly powered up again, launching salvos of missiles from unexpected angles. 2 coalition ships were hit, their shields flaring. They're regrouping, said the tactical officer. New attack pattern. But the Murphy protocol was already changing too, learning and adapting faster than its opponents. Where the coalition expected the humans to press their small advantage, the defenses instead fell back, creating an apparent weakness. The coalition commander took the bait, sending 3 ships into the gap. Now, Kate ordered. Hidden mines, planted in the moon's debris field weeks earlier, detonated. Not powerful enough to destroy the coalition ships, but enough to disrupt their formation and shields. In the confused moments that followed, the Murphy protocol struck again. This time, the attack was precise and conventional. Exactly what the coalition would have expected initially, but now coming when they were prepared for something unusual. One coalition ship erupted in flames. Another lost power and began to drift. They're retreating, announced the sensor officer, disbelief in his voice. The remaining 3 ships are breaking orbit. A cheer went up in the command center, quickly, silenced by Kate's raised hand. Track them, make sure they leave the system, and prepare for more. They'll be back, and in greater numbers. Later, in the debriefing room, Kate, Tom, and Lisa reviewed the battle data. The Murphy protocol exceeded expectations, Lisa said. It adapted to their tactics faster than they could adapt to ours. Tom shook his head in wonder. They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Their combat doctrine is perfect, against enemies who think like they do. But not against humans, Kate said. Not against unpredictability and improvisation. We were always called primitive, Lisa mused. Our technology, our societies, our thinking. But what if that's exactly what makes us dangerous? We haven't had time to specialize and optimize like they have. We're generalists. Adaptable. Tom looked at the data showing the coalition ships fleeing. Well, they know about us now, and word will spread. Good, Kate said firmly. Let it spread. Let them all know that the primitives from Earth aren't as helpless as they thought. In the days that followed, humans across New Terra worked with renewed purpose. The successful defense had changed something. For the first time since Earth's destruction, they weren't just surviving, they were fighting back. And in the vast galaxy that had dismissed them as primitives, word began to spread of the strange new species who fought like no one else, who used technology in ways never intended, and who had somehow pushed back against the mighty coalition with nothing but salvaged weapons and what the aliens were starting to call human chaos. 3 years after the Battle of New Terra, humanity had transformed from refugees to warriors. The Terran remnant now controlled 7 star systems, a small territory by galactic standards but fiercely defended. General Kate Wilson stood on the bridge of the Avenger, the flagship of the Terran fleet. The vessel had once been a coalition cruiser captured in battle and rebuilt with human modifications. Like all Terran ships, it was a strange mix of advanced alien technology and human ingenuity, ugly but deadly effective. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships in formation, General," replied her second-in-command, Commander Paul. "The Axis envoy vessel is approaching rendezvous point." Kate nodded. This meeting had been months in the making. The Axis, one of the 2 alien powers whose war had destroyed Earth, now sought an alliance with the humans they had once considered primitive. How things had changed. "Open a channel to all Terran ships," Kate said. "I want everyone to hear this." On dozens of vessels throughout the fleet, crews paused to listen to their general's words. "This is General Wilson. Today we meet with representatives of the Axis Confederation. Some of you remember them as one of the forces that destroyed our home. Others know them only from history lessons. But all of you know this. We are not the same frightened refugees who fled Earth 8 years ago. We meet them as equals, as a power in our own right. Stay alert. Trust nothing. Wilson out." The Axis ship that appeared at the rendezvous point was massive, dwarfing even the Avenger. It glowed with energy fields and moved with a grace that human ships still couldn't match. "They're hailing us," Commander Paul reported. "On screen," Kate ordered. The image of an Axis representative appeared, a tall, thin being with silvery skin and 4 arms. It spoke in a musical voice, the ship's computer translating. "Greetings, General Wilson of Terra. I am Ambassador Trell of the Axis Confederation. We are pleased to meet with you to discuss matters of mutual interest." Kate kept her face neutral. "Ambassador Trell, the Terran remnant acknowledges your greeting. State your purpose." If the Axis representative was offended by her directness, it didn't show. "The coalition advances against both our peoples. We propose an alliance against our common enemy." "The same enemy you fled from when you destroyed our world," Kate replied coldly. The ambassador bowed its head slightly. "A regrettable incident. We offer reparations as part of our proposed alliance. Reparations can't bring back Earth. No, but they may help secure a future for its survivors." Meanwhile, in the research center on New Terra, Dr. Lisa Clark reviewed the latest test results with growing excitement. What had begun as the Murphy Protocol had evolved into something far more significant. The test subjects showed a 78% increase in psionic response, reported her assistant Mike, now a senior scientist in his own right. "That's well beyond anything we've seen in alien subjects." Lisa studied the brain scans on the display. "And the control interface. Full neural integration. The human pilots can control the hybrid ships with thought alone, faster than any mechanical system." This was the breakthrough they had been working toward for years. Humans had discovered that while alien species had superior technology, they had engineered much of their evolutionary adaptability out of themselves over millennia of development. They had specialized, optimized, become perfect at what they did. But in doing so, they had lost something humans still possessed, raw potential, particularly the latent psionic abilities that most advanced species had bred out as primitive and unpredictable. "Most of the alien vessels rely on AI systems and precision instruments," Lisa said. "But our pilots can react on instinct, make intuitive leaps the aliens can't predict." "Not very scientific," Mike said with a smile. "No, but very human." Back at the diplomatic rendezvous, Kate listened as the Axis ambassador outlined the proposed alliance. The terms were surprisingly favorable. The Axis would provide advanced technology and recognition of Terran territory in exchange for human assistance against the Coalition. "You're offering a lot," Kate observed. "Why? What do humans have that the Axis needs?" Ambassador Trell's silver face showed what might have been a smile. "You have been fighting the Coalition for 5 years, General Wilson. You have captured their vessels, destroyed their outposts, evaded their hunting fleets. No other emerging species has ever done this. So you are unpredictable. The Coalition's prediction engines cannot model human behavior. Their strategic AIs fail against your, what do you call it? The Murphy Protocol? This is valuable to us." Before Kate could respond, the tactical officer shouted, "General, Coalition signatures detected, multiple vessels dropping out of FTL." The space around the diplomatic meeting point flashed with light as a Coalition battle group appeared, 15 warships surrounding the Terran and Axis vessels. They tracked the Axis ship, Kate realized. This meeting was compromised. She turned to the screen. "Ambassador, we need to—" But the Axis ship was already moving, its engines flaring as it prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. "They're abandoning us," Commander Paul said in disbelief. Kate's face hardened. "All ships, battle formation, Charlie. Activate Murphy Protocol and prepare for engagement." The Terran fleet of 7 vessels moved to protect the Avenger, their weapons powering up. Against 15 Coalition ships, they had little chance. The Coalition commander's image appeared on screen, a being similar to the one they had faced at New Terra, but wearing more elaborate armor. "Terran vessels, your alliance with the Axis confirms your status as enemies of the Coalition. Surrender now." Kate looked at her tactical display. The Coalition had them surrounded, outgunned, and outnumbered. But they had made one critical mistake. "New targeting data to all ships," she ordered quietly. "Primary focus on their command vessel." She raised her head to address the Coalition commander. "This is General Kate Wilson of the Terran Remnant. We surrender." The Coalition commander looked surprised, then satisfied. "Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Kate counted silently. 1, 2, 3. "Now!" she ordered. The Terran fleet's weapons remained powered down, but throughout the ships, human pilots connected to neural interfaces activating the one technology the Coalition didn't know about, the psionic amplifiers. Across the Coalition fleet, systems began to fail. Navigation computers showed false data. Weapon targeting systems lost lock. Communications scrambled. In the confusion, the Terran ships struck, not with conventional weapons, but with concentrated psionic attacks guided by human minds. Primitive, emotional, unpredictable human minds that the Coalition's defenses weren't designed to stop. 3 Coalition ships destroyed each other, firing on false targets. Their systems detected. 4 more drifted powerless, their crews incapacitated by psionic feedback. "Push through their line," Kate ordered. "All ships make for the jump point." The battle that followed was brief but brutal. The Terran fleet lost 2 vessels but managed to destroy or disable 8 Coalition ships. As they reached the jump point, Kate looked back at the tactical display showing the crippled Coalition battle group. "Send a message to their commander," she said. "Tell them. The primitives send their regards." As the Terran fleet jumped to safety, word of the battle spread quickly through galactic communications. The supposed primitives from a destroyed world had faced a Coalition battle group. And survived. More than survived, they had won. In her quarters later, Kate received a transmission from Dr. Clark on New Terra. "The psionic amplifiers worked better than we hoped," Lisa reported. "But there's more. We're detecting increased psionic potential in children born since we left Earth. Evolution in action, Kate. We're adapting." Kate thought about this. Humans adapting, evolving in response to their new environment faster than anyone could have predicted. While the ancient species of the galaxy had stagnated in their perfection, humanity was changing, growing stronger. "The Axis will come back," she said. "They need us now." Lisa nodded. and the Coalition fears us. What does that make us, Kate? What we've always been, Kate replied. Survivors. But now we're survivors with a purpose. That purpose had been whispered among the stars for 8 years, passed from ship to ship, colony to colony. The last message from Earth, now a battle. Cry for a species reborn. Remember us, remember Earth, and make them remember too. 10 years had passed since Earth's destruction. The day was now marked as remembrance across all 23 star systems of the Terran Confederation. What had begun as a handful of refugee ships had grown into a galactic power that neither the Coalition nor the Axis could ignore. Admiral Ben Foster, once a junior officer on one of the evacuation vessels, now commanded the entire Terran fleet. He stood on the observation deck of the New Horizons station, watching as the final components of humanity's greatest achievement moved into position. It's beautiful, said the woman who joined him at the viewport. Ben turned to see Dr. Lisa Clark, her hair now white, but her eyes still sharp with intelligence. She had become a legend among both humans and aliens, the scientist who had unlocked humanity's hidden potential. It is, Ben agreed, looking back at the massive vessel taking shape in space before them. Hard to believe we went from refugees to this in just 10 years. The ship they watched was the Earthship, named in honor of their lost home. It was unlike anything in the galaxy, not because it was the largest or most powerful, though it was impressive in both regards. What made it unique was that it represented the perfect fusion of all that humanity had learned and become. Its hull contained elements of Coalition design, Axis energy systems, and a dozen other alien technologies that humans had encountered, captured, or traded for. But at its heart was something purely human, a core of intuition, adaptation, and the controlled chaos that had become their trademark. The Coalition delegation has arrived, reported a young officer. They're requesting permission to board the station. Ben nodded. Granted, and inform me when the Axis representatives arrive. He turned to Lisa. Are you ready for this? She smiled. I've been ready for 10 years. Throughout the station, humans went about their duties alongside aliens of various species. Some were refugees from worlds destroyed in the ongoing galactic conflict. Others were diplomats, traitors, or defectors who had chosen to ally themselves with the surprising newcomers to the galactic stage. In a conference room decorated with images of Earth, some actual photographs, others recreations painted by those too young to remember, Ben and Lisa greeted the Coalition delegation. The lead representative was tall and blue-skinned, wearing the formal armor of a high commander. Admiral Foster, Dr. Clark, the Coalition extends greetings on this day of significance to your people. High Commander Vrel, Ben replied with a formal bow. The Terran Confederation welcomes you to New Horizon. 10 years ago, such a meeting would have been unimaginable. The Coalition had been bent on eliminating the human infestation, but that was before Centauri Prime. The battle had been the turning point. 40 Terran vessels against 100 Coalition ships at their primary manufacturing hub. By all logic, the humans should have been annihilated. Instead, they had achieved the impossible. Human pilots, their natural abilities enhanced by the psionic technology Lisa had developed, had torn through Coalition defenses like they didn't exist. Where Coalition commanders followed battle doctrines perfected over thousands of years, humans improvised. Where Coalition ships flew in precise formations, human vessels seemed to move in chaotic patterns that only made sense in retrospect. The Coalition lost 70 ships that day. The Terran fleet lost 12. And when it was over, Ben Foster had stood on the bridge of his command ship and broadcast a message throughout the system. You called us primitive. We called it being human. Since that day, the Coalition had approached the humans with wary respect. The Axis had actively sought alliance, and humanity had leveraged their position between the two powers to gradually push for an end to the conflict that had destroyed their homeworld. The Axis delegation has arrived, announced the communications officer. Escort them to the conference room, Ben ordered, and prepare the Earthship for the demonstration. When all the dignitaries were assembled, Coalition, Axis, and representatives from a dozen smaller galactic powers. Ben led them to a special viewing area overlooking the massive ship. 10 years ago, he began, our world was destroyed in your war. We were considered primitives barely worth noticing. Today we stand before you not as supplicants, but as equals. The aliens watched silently, some with diplomatic politeness, others with clear unease. The Earthship represents more than just Terran engineering, Ben continued. It embodies our approach to the galaxy. We take what works. We discard what doesn't. We adapt, we innovate, and we move forward. Not alone, but together with any who wish to join us. Lisa stepped forward, her small figure commanding attention. For millennia, your civilizations have refined yourselves toward what you saw as perfection. You specialized your bodies, your minds, your societies. In doing so, you lost something vital, the ability to change, to see things from new perspectives. She gestured toward the assembled aliens. Some of you engineered emotion out of your species, seeing it as a primitive weakness. Others removed what you called erratic neural patterns, the very patterns that allow humans to make intuitive leaps. You pursued efficiency and predictability, and you found them, but at a cost. The Earthship's engines began to glow, a soft, blue light that steadily brightened. Humanity never had the chance to reach that level of specialization, Lisa said. What you saw as our primitive nature was actually our strength. We can feel deeply, think unpredictably, and adapt rapidly. Where you see disorder, we see possibility. The ship now pulsed with energy, its hybrid systems coming fully online for the first time. The Terran Confederation does not seek to rule the galaxy, Ben said firmly. But neither will we allow the conflicts of ancient powers to threaten younger species as they emerge. The war between Coalition and Axis ends today. High Commander Vrel of the Coalition stepped forward. With respect, Admiral Foster, you cannot dictate terms to civilizations thousands of years older than your own. Ben smiled. We're not dictating. We're demonstrating. At his signal, the Earthship activated its main system. There was no visible beam, no weapon firing. But across the station, every alien felt it. A wave of psionic energy, carefully calibrated to pass through shields and hull metal as if they weren't there. The sensation wasn't painful. It was connection. For a brief moment, every being on the station experienced what it meant to be human, the grief for a lost world, the determination to survive, the hope for a better future, and the resolve to never again allow a tragedy like Earth's destruction. When it faded, the conference room was silent. That, Lisa said quietly, is what you dismissed as primitive. The capacity to feel deeply, to connect, to understand each other across the boundaries of species and experience. We don't want your war. We want a galaxy where Earth is remembered, not as the casualty of ancient hatreds, but as the birthplace of a new understanding. The Axis ambassador was the first to speak. How did you do that? The same way we've done everything since our world died, Ben replied. We adapted. We took what we were given and we made it into something new. In the days that followed, the peace accord was signed. Not because the humans had forced it, though the demonstration of their unique abilities had made an impression. Rather, because for the first time in millennia, the old powers of the galaxy had experienced something they had forgotten, the perspective of the other. As the Earthship prepared for its maiden voyage, Ben stood again at the viewport with Lisa beside him. We actually did it, he said. 10 years from refugees to this. Lisa nodded. Earth would be proud. She looked out at the stars. What do you think we'll find out there? Ben thought of the 100 worlds already part of the Terran Confederation, of the thousands more they had yet to explore, of the young species they could protect, the ancient mysteries they could unravel. I don't know, he said. But whatever it is, we'll face it as humans, adaptable, unpredictable. He smiled. Gloriously primitive. Across the station, the last message from Earth, once a call for vengeance, had been reborn as a promise for the future. Remember us. Remember Earth, and make them remember, not through fear but through hope.
The small salvage ship Opportunity drifted silently through the empty sector, its sensors scanning the darkness for anything worth money. Captain Tom Walker sat in his worn command chair, his eyes tired from staring at screens all day. Times were hard for independent salvagers like him. "Anything yet, Lisa?" Tom asked his navigator, who was busy checking readouts on her console. Lisa shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. Just the usual space junk. Not enough to cover our fuel costs." Tom sighed. "We need a real find soon, or we'll have to sell the ship." The thought made his stomach tight. The Opportunity wasn't much, just an old Class C salvager with patches on its patches, but it was home to him and his crew of 5. "Captain," Dave called from the sensor station, his voice suddenly excited. "I got something at coordinates 227 Mark 88. It's big." Tom straightened in his chair. On screen, the main display flickered, showing a dark shape against the stars. It was a ship, and unlike the usual broken freighters they found, this one seemed mostly intact. Its design was strange, boxy and practical, with none of the sleek lines of modern vessels. "Run an ID scan," Tom ordered. The ship's AI responded in its flat voice. "Scanning. Warning. Unusual energy patterns detected. Recommend caution." "What kind of energy?" asked Mac Reynolds, the ship's engineer. He was an older man with gray in his beard who had seen just about everything in his 40 years of spacefaring. "Unknown pattern. Low intensity but complex signature," the AI replied. "Give me that ID," Tom said, ignoring the warning. After a moment, the AI displayed the results. Earth vessel persistence. Experimental class. Last recorded in service 87 years ago. Reported missing during early expansion era. The crew exchanged looks. Earth vessels from that era were rare. Most had been scrapped or upgraded beyond recognition. "An experimental ship from the early days," Tom said, a smile growing on his face. "This could be our lucky break." Mac didn't share his excitement. "Cap, those early experimental ships were dangerous. Some had unstable drives, radiation leaks, and some had technology worth a fortune to collectors," Tom finished. "We're checking it out." 6 hours later, Tom floated through the airlock connecting the Opportunity to the derelict ship. Mac and their security officer, Ben, followed close behind, their magnetic boots clicking as they attached to the metal floor. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness of the dead ship. "Power's been out for decades," Mac said, checking his scanner. "Life support too. But the hull's intact." Tom moved his light across the walls. Unlike modern ships with their smooth surfaces and hidden systems, this vessel had exposed pipes, conduits, and manual controls everywhere. It was built in the days when ships needed human hands to fix them, not automated repair drones. "Let's find the bridge," Tom said. "Ben, watch our backs." They made their way through narrow corridors that spoke of a time when space efficiency trumped comfort. The ship felt solid, built to last, not like the disposable corporate vessels of today. The bridge was smaller than Tom expected, with stations for perhaps 5 crew members. Dust floated in the beam of their lights, undisturbed for nearly a century. "Let's see if we can wake her up," Tom said, brushing dust from what appeared to be the main console. Mac connected a portable power unit, giving her minimal juice. "Don't want to overload anything." Lights flickered weakly on the console, and a low hum filled the bridge. A display sputtered to life, showing a simple logo, a stylized Earth with the words Project Persistence below it. "It works," Tom said, surprised that such old systems would respond at all. Mac studied his scanner with a frown. "Captain, I'm getting weird readings from the engine section. This ship, it's not standard Earth tech from that era." "Meaning?" "Meaning either this was cutting-edge experimental stuff, or..." Mac paused. "Or what?" Ben asked. "Or it was something they didn't want people to know about," Mac finished. Tom's excitement grew. Secret technology meant money. Serious money. Can you access the ship's logs? Mac worked the old-fashioned manual controls for several minutes before shaking his head. Systems too degraded. Maybe if we restore more power. Do it, Tom ordered. I want to know everything about this ship. Back on the Opportunity, Tom filed an official salvage claim. Under galactic law, the first to find an abandoned vessel had rights to it if the original owners didn't respond within 30 days. For a ship this old, there was little chance anyone would contest their claim. Salvage claim filed, Lisa confirmed, but don't expect the big companies to care. They're busy with the border tensions. Tom nodded. The news feeds had been full of reports about the Vorn hegemony's fleet movements. The alien empire had been pushing at the edges of human space for months, and the major powers were focused on military preparations. Their loss, Tom said, will tow the Persistence to Ellis shipyards and see what she's really worth. That night, while the others slept, Mac called Tom to the small engineering bay. You need to see this, he said, pointing to scans of the Duralux's engine core. Tom looked at the complex diagrams, but couldn't make sense of them. What am I seeing? That's just it, Mac said, his voice low with wonder. I don't fully know. This drive system. It's nothing like what we use today. It's not even like the experimental drives from that era that I studied. Is it alien? Tom asked, suddenly worried. Salvaging alien tech without permits meant serious jail time. Mac shook his head. No, it's human-built, but it's like they jumped ahead about 100 years, and then this technology just disappeared. Never went into production. Why would they abandon advanced technology? Tom wondered aloud. Mac's face was serious in the blue light of the display. That's what worries me. Nobody abandons better technology without a good reason. The next day, they managed to restore more power to the Persistence's systems. The ship's computer came partially online, revealing fragmented records. Most of the data is corrupted, Dave reported as they gathered on the bridge of the old ship. But I found this in a protected memory core. The screen showed a video recording of a man in an old-style Earth uniform. The image was poor, with static cutting through it, but his words were clear enough. Final log of Captain James Miller, Earth Ship Persistence. We've encountered something out here, something we weren't prepared for. We're initiating Protocol Omega. The ship will be placed in dormant mode until... The recording cut to static, then resumed. Warning to whoever finds this vessel. The storm is coming. The markers we found on Mars were warnings, not invitations. Persistence was built for this moment. Remember, the key is adaptation, not power. More static, and then the recording ended. What storm? What markers on Mars? Lisa asked, her voice hushed. I don't know, Tom said, but I think we just found something much more valuable than salvage. He looked around at the primitive-seeming bridge with new respect. We need to learn everything we can about this ship. Ben, who had been quiet until now, pointed at a flashing symbol on one of the displays. What's that? Mac leaned in, studying it. It looks like some kind of countdown. To what? Tom asked. No one had an answer, but as they worked to revive more of the ancient vessel, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something that would change everything, not just for them, but possibly for all of humanity. The Opportunity moved slowly through space, towing the much larger Persistence behind it. It had been 3 days since they found the old ship, and Tom was growing more excited with each new discovery. How's our course looking, Lisa? Tom asked, sipping the bitter coffee that was standard on salvage ships. On track for Ellis shipyards. We'll be there in 2 days if the tow cables hold, she replied, checking the navigation screen. The news feeds are crazy with reports about the foreign fleet movements. Nobody's even noticed our salvage claim filing. Tom smiled. Good. The less attention we get, the better. Down in the cargo bay, which now served as their makeshift command center for studying the Persistence, Mac and Dave were trying to unlock more of the ship's secrets. I've never seen anything like this, Mac said, pointing to a diagram of the ship's drive system. It's like it bends space somehow, but not using the standard fold methods. Dave nodded. And look at these defense systems. They're adaptive. They learn from each encounter. Learn how? Tom asked as he entered the cargo bay. The ship records attack patterns and automatically adjusts its shields and countermeasures, Dave explained. Modern ships have something similar, but this is different. More advanced, actually. Tom leaned over their shoulders to look at the screens. So this ship was built to fight. Mac shook his head. Not exactly. It wasn't built with heavy weapons. It was built to survive. To adapt. The ship's countdown timer had reached 0 that morning, but nothing had happened. At least nothing they could detect. It remained a mystery among many. I think I can get more of the computer systems online, Dave said. Maybe then we'll understand what this ship was really for. The Vorn hegemony's advanced ships had entered the outer reaches of human space, causing panic in the border colonies. On the main news channels, military experts discussed strategy while politicians made speeches about standing firm against alien aggression. In the common room of the Opportunity, the crew watched the reports with growing concern. They say the Vorn ships are faster and more heavily armed than anything we have, Lisa said. Ben, who had served in the Earth Defense Force before becoming a security officer on salvage ships, nodded grimly. I've seen classified reports on their technology. If they bring their main fleet, we're in trouble. Maybe that's what the Persistence was built for, Tom suggested. The warning about the coming storm. What if they knew about the Vorn back then? The idea hung in the air. It seemed impossible that ship designers from nearly a century ago could have known about a threat that was only now emerging, and yet the timing was strange. Whatever it was built for, Tom continued, we need to get it working again. I've got a feeling it's worth more than simple salvage now. Ellis Shipyards came into view the next day, a massive structure orbiting a small mining moon. Dozens of ships were docked for repairs or upgrades, most of them commercial vessels being converted for defensive capabilities because of the Vorn threat. Tom hailed the shipyard. Ellis Control, this is Captain Walker of the salvage vessel Opportunity. Requesting docking clearance. We have a special project requiring your expertise. The response was quick and dismissive. Salvage vessels dock at Bay 94. Standard rates apply. We're busy with military contracts, so don't expect priority service. As they approached their assigned bay, they could see the shipyard was indeed busy. Military vessels from Earth and its allies were being fitted with additional weapon systems, and crews worked around the clock. After docking, Tom met with the shipyard manager, a thin man named Howard who seemed perpetually annoyed. We don't have time for salvage restoration, Howard said after Tom explained what they needed. Every available engineer is working on military preparations. This isn't just any salvage, Tom insisted. It's the Persistence, an experimental Earth ship from the early expansion era. Howard was unimpressed. Old tech doesn't interest us. We're dealing with cutting-edge defense systems now. Tom knew he needed to change tactics. What if I told you this ship has stealth capabilities beyond anything you're installing on those military vessels? Howard raised an eyebrow. Prove it. Back aboard the Persistence, Tom, Mac, and Dave worked frantically to demonstrate the ship's capabilities. After hours of connecting power systems and bypassing damaged circuits, they managed to activate one of the ship's subsystems. It's ready, Mac said, wiping sweat from his forehead. The phase shift module is operating at minimal capacity. It won't last long, but it should be enough for a demonstration. Tom contacted Howard, who had reluctantly agreed to observe. Watch your sensors now, Tom instructed. Mac pressed a sequence of controls. The lights dimmed momentarily, and a low hum filled the ship. On the Ellis Shipyard's control deck, Howard stared at his sensor display in disbelief. The Persistence had completely disappeared. Where did it go? He demanded. 20 seconds later, the ship reappeared on sensors. That's impossible, Howard said when Tom contacted him again. No ship can just vanish from all sensors like that. Not even the stealth technology we're installing can do that. Tom couldn't hide his smile. This one can. And there's more. Adaptive defense systems, space-folding drive technology. Things that were developed and then apparently forgotten. Howard's attitude changed completely. I'll assign a team immediately. This could be valuable for the current situation. As the shipyard engineers began work on restoring the Persistence, Tom and his crew continued exploring the vessel. In a sealed compartment near the bridge, they found what appeared to be the captain's private quarters. "Look at this," Lisa said, holding up an old-fashioned paper notebook. Actual handwritten notes. The notebook contained observations, calculations, and personal thoughts from Captain Miller. Most entries were routine, but one page caught their attention. Mars expedition found more than we expected. The artifacts aren't just relics. They're a message. Or a warning. Command doesn't believe my interpretation, but they've authorized Project Persistence anyway. If I'm right about what's coming, this ship may be humanity's only chance. Another entry, dated weeks later, was even more disturbing. First contact with the Vorn scout ships. They didn't detect us thanks to the phase technology, but what we saw confirms my worst fears. Their technology is beyond ours in every way. Earth isn't ready. We're implementing Protocol Omega. The ship will wait. The Vorn, Ben whispered. They knew about them back then. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. And they built this ship specifically to counter them. As if responding to their discovery, the ship's computer systems suddenly came to life. Displays lit up across the bridge, and a soft voice spoke from the speakers. Protocol Omega complete. Dormancy phase ended. Sentinel program active. I am Pearl, automated system of the Earth vessel Persistence. The storm has arrived. The crew stared at each other in shock. The ghost ship had awakened, apparently of its own accord, just as the Vorn fleet approached human space. Pearl, Tom said hesitantly, what is your purpose? The computer's voice was calm and clear. To ensure humanity's survival against the Vorn hegemony. Captain Miller encountered them 87 years ago and knew they would eventually come in force. I was built to be ready when that day arrived. And you think that day is now? Lisa asked. Sensor data confirms Vorn fleet signatures matching those recorded during first contact, Pearl replied. The probability is 99.7% that this is the invasion Captain Miller predicted. Tom looked at his crew, then back at the now active displays showing the ship's systems coming online one by one. I think, he said slowly, we need to contact Earth Defense Force. They need to know what we found. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Military engineers worked alongside Tom's crew to fully restore the Persistence's systems. Pearl guided them, filling in gaps in their understanding and helping calibrate systems that hadn't been active in decades. As they worked, news from the front grew worse. The first major engagement between human forces and the Vorn had ended in disaster. 3 Earth battleships destroyed, with only minimal damage to the alien fleet. Their shields adapt too quickly to our weapons, a grim-faced officer reported during a briefing. And their targeting systems are far more precise than ours. Current projections give us less than a 15% chance of stopping their advance to Earth. Reed turned to Tom after the briefing. Your ship better be everything you claim it is. We're running out of options. Tom felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He had started this journey looking for salvage, for profit. Now the fate of humanity might rest on what they had found. I found something you should see, Lisa called to Tom later that night. She had been working with Pearl to recover more of the ship's original memory files. On a display, she showed him footage from the Persistence's first encounter with the Vorn. The images were grainy and partially corrupted, but clear enough to be terrifying. The Vorn ships moved with impossible speed, their weapons cutting through the defenses of several Earth vessels in seconds. But the Persistence, using its phase shift technology, had managed to evade detection. The footage showed how Captain Miller had observed the Vorn tactics, allowing Pearl to record and analyze their attack patterns. "They never knew we were there," Lisa said. "Miller gathered all this intelligence and then disappeared with the ship, just as he was ordered to. He knew they'd be back," Tom said, "and he made sure we'd be ready when they came." The final clip showed Miller recording his last log entry: "To whoever finds this ship, it may seem primitive, but it's humanity's best hope. The Vorn rely on overwhelming force and superior technology. They've never faced an enemy that could adapt as quickly as they can. The Persistence isn't meant to outgun them, it's meant to outsmart them." The day before the Persistence was scheduled to join Earth's defense fleet, Tom found Mac alone on the bridge, staring at displays showing the approaching Vorn armada. "Having second thoughts?" Tom asked. Mac shook his head. "Just thinking about how strange life is. A week ago, we were just looking for junk to salvage. Now we're about to face an alien invasion in a century-old ship. We could still walk away," Tom said, though he knew neither of them would. "Let the military handle it. They don't understand this ship like we do," Mac replied. "Besides, I've spent my whole life fixing things. Maybe that's why we found the Persistence. Maybe we're the ones who are supposed to fix this situation." Tom put a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we find out what this ship can really do." As Mac left, Tom turned to the main console. "Pearl, what are our actual chances against the Vorn fleet?" Pearl's voice was as calm as ever. "Based on current data and simulations, probability of success against the full Vorn armada is 23.7%. "Not great odds," Tom murmured. "Captain Miller faced worse odds during first contact," Pearl responded. "He believed that adaptability would eventually triumph over raw power. The Persistence was built on that principle." Tom looked around at the bridge of the once-forgotten ship. Tomorrow it would face the test it was built for, nearly a century after its creation. A ship everyone had ignored was about to confront the most powerful invasion force humanity had ever seen. "Well," he said quietly, "let's prove Captain Miller right." The command center of the Earth Defense Force was filled with grim faces. Holographic displays showed the Vorn armada, hundreds of warships advancing steadily toward Earth. Reports from the outer colonies were devastating. Defense stations destroyed, planetary shields failing, civilian evacuation ships being shot down without mercy. Commander Reed stood before the Defense Council, 7 men and women who led Earth's military forces. They had listened to her report about the Persistence with skepticism written across their faces. "You expect us to place our hopes on a salvage vessel?" General Santos asked, his voice heavy with doubt. "One that's been drifting in space for nearly a century." "Not just any vessel," Reed replied firmly. "One specifically designed to counter Vorn technology." Admiral Chen shook her head. "We need real solutions, Commander. Not fairy tales about magical old ships." "With respect, Admiral," Reed said, "our real solutions are failing. The Newcastle battle group was destroyed this morning. The Vorn shields adapt to our weapons after just a few hits. We need something they haven't seen before." The council members exchanged troubled glances. They knew the situation was desperate. "What exactly do you propose?" asked General Santos. Reed activated a holographic display showing battle plans. "A joint operation. Our main fleet engages the Vorn command ships here." She pointed to a location near Mars orbit. "Meanwhile, the Persistence leads a small group to flank their formation, drawing off part of their force." "A diversion?" Admiral Chen asked. "More than that," Reed answered. "A test of the ship's capabilities against actual Vorn vessels. If it succeeds, we'll have valuable data. If it fails," she didn't need to finish the thought. After a moment of silence, the council chairman spoke. "We don't have many options left." "Very well, Commander. Your plan is approved. But don't expect much support. We need every ship we can muster for the main defense." Reed nodded. "I understand, sir. We'll make do with what we have." Tom stood on the bridge of the Persistence, watching as the final preparations were made. Military technicians had installed updated communication systems and reinforced some of the hull plating, but otherwise, the ship remained much as it had been when they found it. Mac approached him, wiping his hands on a rag. "All systems check out. Pearl says we're as ready as we'll ever be." "How's the crew?" Tom asked. "Scared," Mac replied honestly. "But ready. The military volunteers are settling in fine. Bit confused by some of our systems, but they're learning." Commander Reed had assigned a dozen military personnel to supplement Tom's small crew. Their expertise in modern combat would complement the salvagers' knowledge of the ship's unique systems. Lisa entered the bridge, her usual calm demeanor showing cracks of anxiety. "We've received the final battle plans. We're designated Strike Group Omega, the Persistence plus 3 modern frigates." "Only 3?" Tom asked, surprised. "They can't spare more," Lisa said. "Most of the fleet is gathering for the main defense action." Tom looked around at his crew, the people who had started this journey with him as simple salvagers. Now they were about to face the most powerful enemy humanity had ever encountered. "I need to say something," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "None of you signed up for this. We were looking for salvage, not a war. If anyone wants to leave now, I understand. No one will think less of you." The crew exchanged glances, but no one moved. Ben, who had been quiet for most of the preparations, spoke up. "Captain, before I joined your crew, I served in the Defense Force. I saw good people die because we didn't have the right tools for the job." He gestured around the bridge. "This ship might be the right tool. I'm staying." One by one, the others nodded in agreement. Besides, Dave added with a nervous grin, "Someone needs to keep Pearl's systems running smoothly." "Thank you," Tom said simply. "All of you." Later that day, Commander Reed arrived for a final briefing. "The Vorn will reach Mars orbit in 14 hours, she told them, activating a tactical display. "That's when the main fleet will engage them. Your strike group will move out ahead of time, taking position here, behind Deimos." The display showed the small Martian moon, which would shield them from the Vorn sensors until the battle began. "When the main engagement starts, you'll emerge and attack the rear section of their right flank," Reed continued. "Your mission is to draw off as many of their ships as possible, giving our main force a better chance against their command vessels." Tom studied the display. "So we're the bait?" Reed met his eyes directly. "Yes, and likely a sacrifice. The military analysis gives your strike group less than a 20% chance of survival." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "But," Reed added, "those same analysts haven't seen what this ship can do." "I have." She looked around at the crew. "Remember, your primary mission is to gather combat data on how the Persistence's systems perform against the Vorn. Any damage you inflict is a bonus." After Reed left, Tom turned to Pearl. "What do you think of our chances? Based on current battle projections and assuming full functionality of all systems, the Persistence has a 42.8% probability of survival," Pearl responded. "However, the probability of mission success is 67.3%. "How do you define mission success?" Mac asked. "Gathering sufficient combat data to improve Earth's defensive capabilities against the Vorn," Pearl answered, "and demonstrating the effectiveness of adaptive systems against their technology." Tom nodded slowly. Not exactly reassuring, but better than the military estimate. The journey to Mars was quiet. Each crew member dealt with their fear in their own way. Some of the military personnel shared stories of previous battles. Dave spent hours studying Pearl's systems. Lisa pored over navigational charts, planning escape routes. Ben checked and rechecked the ship's limited weapons. Tom found Mac in the engine room, making final adjustments to the phase shift drive. "How's it looking?" Tom asked. "As good as it can be," Mac replied. "This technology is amazing, Tom. The way it folds space around the ship. It's decades ahead of anything we use today." He paused. It's a shame it was hidden away all this time. Think of what we could have done with it. Maybe that's why it was hidden, Tom suggested. Maybe we weren't ready for it. Mac considered this. And now we don't have a choice. As they reached Mars orbit, the crew gathered on the bridge for Tom's final words before battle. We all know the odds, he said. But remember what Captain Miller said. This ship wasn't built to outgun the Vorn. It was built to outsmart them. He looked around at their faces, friends, colleagues, and newly assigned military personnel all united in this desperate mission. The Persistence has waited nearly a century for this moment. It's time to show the Vorn what happens when they threaten Earth. The ship took its position behind Deimos, joined by the 3 military frigates that made up the rest of Strike Group Omega. They powered down to minimal systems, waiting. 8 hours later, the sensors lit up. The Vorn Armada had arrived. The battle for Earth had begun. The main view screen on the Persistence showed a terrifying sight. Hundreds of Vorn warships, their black hulls gleaming against the stars. They moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism rather than an armada. In the distance, the flashes of energy weapons marked where Earth's main fleet engaged the front line of the alien force. This is it, Tom said, his mouth dry with tension. Pearl, activate all combat systems. Combat systems active, Pearl responded. Phase shift drive ready. Predictive defense matrix online. Energy reflection system calibrated. Tom opened a channel to the 3 frigates accompanying them. Strike Group Omega, this is Captain Walker. Stay close and follow our lead. Remember, our job is to draw their attention away from the main fleet. Copy that, Persistence, came the response from Captain Harris of the frigate Defiant. Though I still don't understand how that old bucket of yours is going to make any difference. Tom smiled grimly. You're about to find out. Strike Group Omega. Move out. The 4 ships emerged from behind Deimos, accelerating toward the right flank of the Vorn formation. For a moment, they went unnoticed as the alien fleet focused on Earth's main battle group. They haven't spotted us yet, Lisa reported from the sensor station. Their attention is on the main engagement. Good, Tom replied. Let's get closer before we announce ourselves. He turned to Ben at the weapons console. Target the smallest ship on their outer formation. Just a warning shot to get their attention. Ben nodded, locking onto a Vorn vessel that, while small by their standards, was still twice the size of the Persistence. Target locked. Fire. A pulse of energy shot from the Persistence, striking the Vorn ship's shields. The alien vessel shuddered slightly but showed no serious damage. We've got their attention, Mac announced as several Vorn ships broke formation and turned toward Strike Group Omega. 10 ships. No, 15. They're coming our way. That's more than we expected, Tom said, surprised by the strong response to their small attack. Pearl. Analysis. The Vorn appear to prioritize elimination of any threat to their flanks, Pearl responded. This is consistent with their tactical doctrine observed during first contact. The Vorn ships accelerated toward them, weapon systems powering up. All ships, evasive pattern Delta, Tom ordered. Let's see if we can lead them further from the main battle. The 4 human vessels turned and accelerated away, with the Vorn in pursuit. But the alien ships were faster, quickly closing the gap. They're in weapons range, Ben warned. Energy signatures suggest they're preparing to fire. Now we see if this ship lives up to its reputation, Tom said. Pearl, activate phase shift. Phase shift active, Pearl confirmed. The bridge lights dimmed momentarily as the drive engaged. A strange sensation washed over the crew, like being underwater and in air simultaneously. On the main screen, they watched as the Vorn fired, their energy weapons cutting through the space where the Persistence had been a moment before. The shots passed harmlessly through their position. It worked, Lisa exclaimed. They can't hit us. Unfortunately, the same wasn't true for their escorts. One of the frigates took a direct hit, its shields failing immediately under the powerful foreign weapons. "The Courageous is hit badly," Ben reported. "They've lost engines and weapons. We need to draw fire away from them," Tom decided. "Pearl, drop phase shift. Let the Vorn see us again." As soon as the Persistence reappeared on sensors, the alien ships adjusted their attack, multiple vessels targeting the suddenly visible ship. "Predictive defense matrix active," Pearl announced calmly as the Vorn weapons fired. Instead of the standard shields used by modern ships, the Persistence deployed its unique defense system. The matrix analyzed the incoming attacks in microseconds, creating reinforced energy fields precisely where the weapons would hit. The Vorn beams struck these fields and scattered, causing minimal damage to the ship. "Matrix effectiveness at 93.7%, Pearl reported, adapting to their attack patterns. Tom opened a channel to the remaining frigates. "Fall back to assist the Courageous. We'll handle the Vorn." "Are you insane?" Captain Harris replied. "There are at least 15 enemy ships out there." "Trust me," Tom said. "Just get your people clear." As the frigates retreated, the Persistence turned directly toward the Vorn vessels. "What's the plan, Captain?" Mac asked, his voice tense. "Get in close," Tom replied. "The energy reflection system needs to be within a certain range to work effectively." The Persistence accelerated toward the largest Vorn ship, dodging weapons fire with quick bursts of the phase shift drive. "We're within optimal range," Pearl announced. "Energy reflection system active," Tom ordered. As the Vorn flagship fired again, something remarkable happened. The Persistence's systems captured the incoming energy beam, channeled it through specialized conduits, and redirected it back at the Vorn ship, amplified. The alien vessel's shields failed under its own reflected weapon fire, and significant damage rippled across its hull. "It's working," Dave shouted from his station. "Pearl, full attack pattern," Tom commanded. "Use everything this ship has." The Persistence began a complex series of maneuvers, appearing and disappearing with the phase shift drive, predicting and blocking attacks with the defense matrix, and reflecting the Vorn's own energy back at them. The alien ships, confused by these unknown tactics, began firing more frantically. But with each attack, Pearl learned and adapted, making the Persistence increasingly effective. One Vorn ship exploded as its own reflected energy struck a critical system. Another lost propulsion and began drifting. A third, attempting to retreat, was caught by a particularly powerful reflected beam that cut through its command section. On the main Earth Fleet communication channel, confused reports began flowing in. "What's happening to the Vorn right flank? Strike Group Omega is engaging at least 15 enemy vessels." "That's impossible. It's just 4 small ships." Commander Reed's voice cut through the chatter. "Focus on our targets. Let Captain Walker handle his assignment." As the battle continued, more Vorn ships broke from the main formation to deal with the unexpected threat. The Persistence led them on a complex chase, drawing them further from the main battle while continuing to damage any ship that came too close. "We've pulled 23 ships away from the main engagement," Lisa reported with amazement. "That's giving our fleet a fighting chance." "Pearl, status update," Tom requested, gripping his chair as the ship shook from a partial hit. "Phase shift drive operating at 72% efficiency. Predictive matrix at 89%. Energy reflection system fully functional. Overall combat effectiveness remains high." Tom noticed something on the tactical display. The Vorn fleet is changing formation. They're pulling back. The alien ships were indeed regrouping, moving away from both Earth's main fleet and the troublesome Persistence. Their perfect formation had been disrupted, and they appeared to be reassessing their strategy. "They didn't expect this," Mac said, his voice filled with wonder. "They've never faced anything like the Persistence before." A communication came through from Commander Reed. "Captain Walker, I don't know how you're doing it, but the Vorn are retreating from the entire sector. Whatever that ship of yours did, it scared them." Tom looked around at his tired but triumphant crew. It wasn't just the ship, Commander. It was the people who built it, who understood what we would need even before we knew about the threat. And it was this crew who took a chance on an old derelict that everyone else ignored. As the Vorn Armada disappeared into deep space, the crew of the Persistence shared looks of disbelief and joy. They had done the impossible. A salvage crew in a forgotten ship had turned the tide against the most powerful enemy humanity had ever faced. Pearl, Tom asked quietly, do you think they'll be back? Analysis suggests the Vorn will return with adapted strategies, Pearl responded. However, the Persistence will continue to evolve as well. Captain Miller's vision was correct. Adaptability is the key to survival. Tom nodded, looking at the stars on the view screen. A ship everyone had ignored had just saved humanity, and he knew that this was only the beginning of its story. Set course for Earth, he ordered. It's time to show the world what this ship can really do.